You're listening to the REITE Club podcast, where the focus is all about helping you grow your real estate investment portfolio and live the life you want to live. Come grow with us and join our community at thereiteclub.com. And now your hosts, Sarah Larby and Alfonso Salemi.
I really have to start with my husband because I've known him since he was a teenager. We've been together the majority of our lives. And ever since I met him when we were just teenagers, he always wanted to move to California. And he had this idea of what California is like in his head. You know, this was the goal. And we actually tried. We tried really hard for many, many years to immigrate to the United States, but it's surprisingly difficult, even for Canadian citizens. And then there was a point where there was some changes. There were some changes in the political part of the country, and it made it a little less desirable for us to move there. In the meantime, in 2017, we came to visit Costa Rica for the first time, and we realized that we could have everything that we wanted here in Costa Rica quicker and cheaper than deciding to than a move to California. And so that's how we decided we wanted to come here.
That's so exciting. And you have a daughter as well. So was she born when you were planning this, or what?
She was, yes. She's a big girl. She's 12 and a half, going on 25. And she, at that time when we made the decision, Paul and I, my husband and I, we had come and visited Costa Rica on our own, and she hadn't seen it. And so we told her, you know, we're going to move. And she said, well, I've never been there. And so we thought, okay, you know what, we could use one more trip. And we brought my mom and her husband and our daughter, and we came. The second trip was in March 2020, and we came for a week. And when we got back to Canada, COVID hit and it was lockdown. So that's kind of how we started our lockdown. And we realized that we were going to make this happen, and we could make this happen sooner than we thought. And it took a little bit of planning and a little bit of prep, but October 2020 was when we made the big move. We sold our primary home in Oshawa and we moved down here, and we've been renting ever since. We've been testing different areas, different provinces and cities in the country, and this is where we've ended up.
That's awesome. So you went from Oshawa, you know, in a house working as a property manager, and realized that all of a sudden everything was going remote as well. Like, I think one of the small, maybe good things that happened throughout COVID was that everything became very virtual, and like working virtually became more and more accepted. But maybe just share how your business maybe progressed throughout, you know, from the time that you were in Oshawa to the time that you were in Costa Rica, and how you managed to, you know, really ultimately manage tenants from afar.
I think that with the knowledge that we wanted to move, you know, pretty much our entire adult lives, that kind of, you know, that little bug in my ear was always there. So there was a part of me that was prepping for this. When I built the property management company, I knew that we were going to eventually move. I actually had a conversation with my husband, and I said, should I even bother starting this now? Should we just wait till we move and I can do something in Costa Rica or California, wherever we were at the time? But we made the decision that no, you know what, it's worth it. Let's start the business now. And I started the business to keep things lean. I never actually established an office. So we were never paying that rent for an office. It was always a virtual business. Even with the hires that we had, if we used to have meetings at restaurants, and you know, we had rented office space when we needed it. But the majority of the time we all worked from home, and that was really a plus and an incentive for many of the women that worked with me throughout the years. Then when COVID hit, it wasn't much different, because with the technology that we have today, the lease signings, They can be done remotely. A lot of the work that we do is considered essential services. So when it comes to showing the units and inspecting the units, those are considered essential services. And so with the proper precautions and the proper cleaning and care, we were able to continue that work throughout all of those stages of the shutdown throughout the pandemic.
That's excellent. And tell me about some challenges. It sounds really great, but did you hit some sort of snag there, like with all this? I'm sure you had some bumps along the road.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that the way that I look at it is that, so first of all, let me take a step back and tell you about the team, because without the incredible team that I have on site in Durham region, I would not be able to do what I'm doing. Because with property management, you absolutely need somebody on the ground. We've even tested different ways of screening tenants, hiring out inspections, so that it could be done 100% remotely, and not just for a property manager like myself, but an investor. But the value that a trusted person on site brings is irreplaceable. The value that comes with meeting a tenant face to face as part of the screening process is irreplaceable. So if some people may decide to do it, but at our property management company, we have to meet the tenants before we decide we want to move ahead with them. Some of the roadblocks and the bumps. So to be honest, Francois, every day there are roadblocks. Every day there are bumps.
Yep.
And some days are just more challenging than other days. Some days I think, okay, I've had enough. I'm going to take a break before I come back to this. And it's really, it's less what you think. It's less the piece that I'm not physically there. It's more of the day-to-day business things. And I would have had to deal with those day-to-day business things, whether I'm in Costa Rica or whether I'm in Canada. Because the communication that I have with the team, we have multiple weekly meetings that we have through videos. We communicate very closely with through different methods, through phone, through text, through group chats, and of course those video meetings that we have. And it's really like I'm there. So from that perspective, there aren't very many challenges. I guess the one thing I could say is the time difference. Because right now we're 2 hours behind. Next week, when daylight savings hits in, we're only going to be 1 hour behind, because Costa Rica doesn't change times like Canada. So I've missed a meeting here and there, or I've been late to a meeting, I should say, because I didn't, account for the time change. But other than that, from a perspective of like a geographical perspective, me being here hasn't really made a difference.
Okay, that's awesome. So, I mean, obviously, you've got your business, you've got feet on the street. Your team is huge, right? Having the right team gives you at least that peace of mind that you can be wherever in the world and still be able to do this. But let's fast forward to Costa Rica, because a lot of people listening to this are wondering how they can do the same. I mean, Costa Rica has a whole different way of life. It is definitely on my bucket list of places that I want to travel to next. And it might not be as difficult as people think. So maybe just walk us through like the process of how you maneuvered through moving. What are the things that we should know as we are preparing this?
For the initial move, one of the major things that you have to do, especially as a real estate investor, is inform your bank that you're moving, and inform them that you're going to be making large withdrawals, whether it's to buy a car or to buy property. And having that set up at the start is going to be invaluable, because if you don't, you may have to fly back to Canada just to do those transactions. From a tax perspective, there is no tax treaty between Canada and Costa Rica, which means that if you make money in Costa Rica and you have assets in Canada and you remain a Canadian tax citizen, then you will have to pay taxes in both countries. If you are out of Canada for more than 6 months, you will lose your OHEP. Although we do have healthcare here in Costa Rica called CAHA, and it's a, you pay into it. So every month it's very affordable, even for a family. And it's very similar to our healthcare in Canada. Although even people with CAHA here choose to go the private route because it's not much more expensive, but the timing is much faster.
Thanks for listening to the REITE Club podcast and joining our community of real estate investors online at thereiteclub.com, where the focus is about helping you grow. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks from your hosts, Sarah Larby and Alfonso Salemi.